matusi ya nyumbani. We. Mimi mambo ya ujinga sijui mountain. I'm not subscribing to that tribalism stuff, guys. I'm sorry. I'm not. Weka utakuwa sijui mimi ni mtu wa mlima ni sawa. Weka tu mtu wa mlima huko. And I'm not even going to give you a chance to speak on my show. I'm not going to push that tribal bigotry on my space. Yeah. Can you imagine somebody doing dialysis twice a week? Yeah. Mimi nave naogopa sindano alafu nipeleke hospitali twice a week. Alafu tena unaniambia, and you know, many people become poor from going to hospital. Saja anasema, brother, usikuje kusema peti why nini? Just put out your point without asking people questions. Just because you are tolerating you doesn't mean you're making a point, bro. Relax. Anthony, you're back on the mic before I go to guitar.
Hello, asanti sana Pipita. Ningependa kuongezea ambayo umesema kuhusu hizo maswali nimeuliziwa hapo hivyo mbele. The first thing is Rigathi and Ruto are the leaders of a dysfunctional system. Corrupt, iko na wizi, hakuna system yote ambayo inafanya kazi. One half of it ikitoka nje, kazi ambayo imebakia ni 50% less. Hiyo ndio kitu ambayo ningetaka afahamu. Lazima tushangilie kutoka kwake. Lakini kuna kitu pia nilisema, tumukaribishe upande hii, tupige ile nusu imebakia, tuitoa nje kabla 2027. Lakini kwa sasa sababu tunafurahia kutoka kwake, yeye ni one half of an oppressive regime whose head now, half of it has been chopped off. And honestly, that is something to celebrate. We have less evil remaining, but lazima tujikakamue zaidi. Hiyo tu ndio sababu nimechukua mic tena nimjibu hiyo swali ambayo alikuwa akitaka nimjibu mimi mwenyewe. Asante sana kwa kunipatia nafasi tena Pipita.
Asante kwa vile yako hapa. Wacha tena ni pengine shenzi sana yani. But why?
Bwana Pipita waacha. Mimi nitakuuliza swali. Mimi nimeuliza Anthony na amenijibu ni sawa.
Ilibidi hata mimi na kujibu. Sasa unajua umeuliza kwa platform yangu mpaka nijibu. Ugitonga, how are you doing?
Fine. I hope you
talk to me. I can hear you loud and clear.
Sasa mimi nimefurahi sana. Rigathi ameenda one hand.
Mute your mic coming. Come on. Talk to us, Gitonga.
Yes, so it is one haina down. I think tumebakisha ma MP wale wa kuchaguliwa ni 290 na women rep 47. Those are 337 and one president and au tunaangusha pole. Now I am hoping hii momentum, you see the beauty with this impeachment, wamemu-impeach for really nothing, yani visingizio. So they have really lowered the bar on what you can impeach someone on. So technically you can impeach someone if you don't like them. All you need to do is ulete charges kama 10, even if one sticks, he's out. So sasa I am looking forward to the reconstitution of the IEBC. We have an unfinished business with a lot of these MPs. Najua tu wa Kenya wamekaa wametulia, but as soon as we get our chance to recall, we shall recall them. Now, kutoa Rigathi, hakuna, it is good for us because Ruto has not gained anything as a politician, he hasn't gained anything. Si ati Kindiki akikuwa deputy president atamuongezea kura. So he has weakened himself, and that is good for us. We need a weaker president as we can get. The only strength Ruto has is the strength of the bullet and the strength of the baton and the strength of water cannon. It just violence is his nini right now. He will say the rule of law and all of that, but the rule of law is not with him. The spirit of the constitution is not with him. So sasa Rigathi ameenda, I'm glad. Nataka kwanza sijui kama arudi hospitali kwanza. We need these people gone. We get them venye tutawatoa tu, but hii imetusaidia sana, ameenda. Sasa wacha tuone what holds the next 2-3 days, but it is a welcome development. All of this is happening in the context of abductions, harassment, and a lot of suppression. So let us not forget that kazi ni mingi. Hakuna mkora umesikia ameshikwa na NYS. We have yet to recover a lot of wasted funds. So there's still much to do, but we can't do it with this thief and this killer in office. Na sasa uzuri ameleta Kindiki. He's a real dark lord. He's a stubborn sycophant. Wacha waingie kwa debe moja. God will open something or will create circumstances where our interest will be advanced. Thank you, Peter, and nakushukuru kwa platform.
Thank you so much, Gitonga, for that. Hey, mtandao itanionyesha mambo wa.
You are listening to Home Run with Pipi. Weekdays from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m.
You're tuned into Home Run with Pipi, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for supporting and tuning in. Kama kawaida, tunapokuja hapa every weekday. Imagine ishafika Thursday, guy. The week is flying. Absolutely flying. But this week I've been very down, sick. Nashukuru nimemanage. The power of consistency. You can't risk to lose it kwa sababu umekuwa tu hapa hivi. You can't lose your consistency because of such. But I'm glad you guys have been very supportive in terms of also coming to the mic and talking. Yeah, and thank you so much, Kina Western, and everybody else who has held the fort this week. Happy. It has not been an easy week, you guys have known. But yeah, we have managed, and we are here next to Friday. I see Luka Matoke on the lineup. Luka Matoke wants to take my earless sister, bwana. Sasa. Hey, Luka, Mahari. Okay, that is a dark joke. That is a very dark joke. Let me just leave it at that. It's 7 p.m. East African time, ladies and gentlemen. Home Run with Pipi is supported by you, the listener. Na kama unapenda kazi yangu, niko na namba pale hivi 0721948229 where you drop in your support for the show as well. So asanteni sana kwa wale ambao walikuwa na mimi. Saja sawa, even if he brings in Raila as DP, Ruto will always do what he thinks will benefit him, and not this Ruto wants someone who will always be saying yes, sir. So yeah, that is what Ian Saj is saying. But Humming, how are you doing, Hummingbird?
Yeah. I'm doing fine. Unanisikia?
Yeah, nakusikia. Talk to us.
Mimi sina maneno mengi ya kusema. Mimi ni mtu Gen Z hapa, young boy. Probably siwezi ongea confidently kama venye nyinyi mnaongea. So itabidi tu mmesikia kile nataka kusema eh. So watu naona kama mmefurahi juu Gachagua ameondolewa, and you think that kuondolewa Gachagua means that Ruto amejichimbia kaburi yake, but I don't think so. This guy venye amejipanga ni kama hamja notice this guy ameamua war with the Kenyan people. Hata kama Gachagua atatoka, you cannot use the same principles to impeach Ruto, because this guy he owns the arms of the government, yeah? So at any moment yenye mnataka kumtoa na the same rules zenye mlitoa Gachagua nazo, it's not gonna work. He's just gonna change the rules, and as you can see right now wenye kunaenda, we can't do nothing about it, and you won't do nothing about it then. So msifurahie sana. Another thing, nimesikia jamaa fulani amesema, sijui kama ni Ian Saj, amesema ati the only weapon Ruto ako nayo ni violence, tear gas, maji ya chumvi. This guy has a lot of weapons. This guy has kuna watu kwa mfuko bana. So usiseme tu ni tear gas pekee yako nayo. Huyu jamaa akiamua extend term yake, hakuna kitu mtafanya unless sisi wote tutokee kwa streets. Akiamua kufanya hivi kwa government atafanya hivi. Of late nimeona kuna history fulani ya ati IMF ameapprove loan fulani ati the Kenyan economy is doing so well against the dollar. Ati our inflation rates have never been lower since 14 years. Hizo story zote ni za jaba. Acha niwaambie, Ruto anawapanga venye yeye anataka kuwapanga. This guy, if you don't stand up to yourselves, it's a lost cause, kwa sababu anapendeza wazungu, anapendeza Wakenya wale wajinga wenye hawako Twitter. Unajua X iko na community ya the brightest people in Kenya. So hatufai kujiangalia, tunafaa tujiangalie as the Kenyan community. Ni watu wangapi hawako X? Ni watu wangapi hawako kwa hii space wenye hawajui nini inaendelea kwa nchi? Ile time Ruto anataka kuingia prezo, ataenda ushago, atamwaga do, and people will accept the money. People will give him the votes. So kama watu ushago wana civic education, the things we are doing here, they're all in vain. Hakuna kitu tunasaidia nchi by the way. Yeah, that was my point. Thank you for the mic.
All right. Thank you Hummingbird for that challenge as well. Umesema kwamba mpaka tuende tufanye civic education huko hivi nyumba. You know, the question of civic education with me is always challenged by one thing. When you talk about civic education, you talk about telling people about the law, their role as a citizen, but you don't check them to the ballot paper. It also needs you, the citizen, to go out there and vote. This is my point. As I must graduate, respect our constitution. Check this is swearing in ceremony. Hakuna constitution aliweka kando, but alinua sword. This guy is a killer. Yeah. So those are comments that I'm getting here on the show. You can write your comments as well if you're not able to join us. We still have 2 more hours to go to the top of the hour for today. That is 9 p.m. East African time. Here's the thing. I think, and my lawyer friend was telling me that by him not going, and you guys need to go to YouTube and check out that channel of ours. I have a lawyer there talking about what exactly it means by Rigathi going to hospital, what it really means for him in terms of this petition. But Western Shilao has maintained that this is a political process. And of course, we even wondered if he went back to office, how are they going to work with the boss? You know, because it's supposed to be the principal secretary. How is this supposed to work with the boss if they are not talking? I see my friend Clinton. Hey, imekuwa muda mrefu Clinton, if you can come and say hi to us here on the show as well. It's been a very long time, Bwana Clinton. Tunavyoingia, this is the last day of October, by the way, guys. What? Tomorrow to go November. Okay. 2 months, by the way. I just want to ask you a very simple question, ladies and gentlemen, as we continue the show. How far are you with your savings plan for 2024? You can explain like me, you know. Can you explain? Yeah, so anyway, Rigathi Gachagua is out, as it seems. Of course, in serikali ya midnight. So anytime from midnight, you will be seeing a notification. I don't know, lawyers wako wapi hapa leo? Muniambie, is it possible for swearing in ya Kithure ifanywe kesho ama hata leo? Itakuwa poa sana. I would like to hear on that. Because as somebody said, this is a fully political process. Sisi tu tuko hapa kuenjoy cinema. So the more cinema inaendelea kuunfold, the better. Najua, we are hoping one day truthful men atasimama mbele ya watu, as Anthony is telling us right now. Tuna expect truthful men aseme, unajua mimi kama truthful men ninataka kuambia ukweli. Nani alichukua pesa ya Adani? Adani ni nani? Sasa wewe unaona tukufanyie nini? Hizo ndo conversation nataka to have na Wamunyoro Investments. but kwa sasa wacha endelee kuuza furniture na Morara. Yeah, wanaweza shindana na Morara business because asema kwanza yake ni old time, anaweza patia Morara 1 or 2 ways of raising funds. Yeah, so it's actually a good partnership, as you guys are saying. Oh my God, I really am going to hell. Yeah. Okay. No comment. No more comments. Let me see what is going on. If the deputy team has reacted, I think one of the reasons why Rigathi lost is the lawyers. The lawyers have been very careless. I think they knew. Either way they are going to win, so to lose. So they were very careless. Camino was always telling people, "You are my baby," you know. Even today he was telling someone, "Shut up, I'm submitting." I'm like, okay, guy. Is this how? So I've never seen his submissions in court like that. So the High Court has lifted the conservatory orders that was barring the swearing in of Kithure Kindiki. My question here is, where is Maverick Aoko? Has any formal communication been made on that? Where's Maverick? Can we say Maverick ako sehemu fulani? Miki anasema I need my lawyer to answer that. My savings ain't saving. Miki, how do you even have savings in the first place? Kwani any deep state? Ara. You guys have savings, man. Anyway, so that is that, and also I would like to hear from people who are in the chief. Watu wameenda kwa chief pale hivi. How is it looking? The statistics that you're getting, 75% of us. I'm saying us because I woke up one day at 3 p.m. after my afternoon siesta, and voila, I was in chief. I don't know how you found yourself there, but I've seen some people saying that their bosses have written them memoranda saying that no shift, no salary. I'm not going to name the employers because I also need my friends to send me tips. I can't risk. I can't risk. So I don't want to be jobless with them here. Employers in Kenya are very vindictive. You do something, they are there. Yeah. So as you're saying, do flimsy reasons to impeach? Remember, right now, as you're speaking, Kithure Kindiki, I'm probably sure he's now getting ready, anapiga suti pasi akisema ni wakati sasa. Yes. Western, I don't know if you have an additional, but look at what you're saying. How did the High Court believe that Kindiki was approved by IBC that does not exist? I think that is what we were talking about, debating earlier on. Somebody is getting, it's a very high end game, I think, of politics. Hata mimi inanishinda, by the way. But anyway, Weston, do you have anything to add? And also bring back Mau if you can hear me. Maybe give us a thought about all this.
Peter, that thing about IBC. Well, you know, that's what we call hair splitting hairs. You know, like you, Peter, if you were to apply for a job in government, they would ask you for a lot of documents to show that you're paying your taxes. If you are given a loan, you've serviced your loan, or you're servicing your loan, you do not have a debt, you do not have a criminal record. Well, and those things cost money. ESCC and all sorts of places. But these people, well, they are not subjected to that. If they were, you'd ask who cleared them. Clearly, they've got issues to answer as far as criminality is concerned. But you see, those people are on the ballot, and the next time you wake up, they're in parliament as members of parliament. So when when a lawyer talks about IEBC, is supposed to be there to clear Kindiki. See, that is the ideal. But we know we live in a political system whereby, those things are meant for mere mortals. You have to be cleared by this. Well, even if IBC was there, they would still clear him. It's not like they would stop him. So I wouldn't be bothered about that. They would not. It's like vetting of nominees, whether it's to the cabinet or a whole host of government deployees. Well, on rare occasions, do you see those people being rejected? It's always a foregone conclusion that the president will have his way. So I'm not so sure why we insist on these processes when we know it's just about ticking boxes. Ticking boxes. Okay, you want Parliament to clear my deputy president nominee. You saw how the process was carried out in record time. I mean, they couldn't wait to complete the process. They are not interested in those issues of ethics. What did he do when he was serving as Interior Cabinet Secretary or at a previous life? They're not interested in those things. So I'm not so sure that it really helps us when we try to run away from reality. As I keep on saying, for a government, Pipita, it's not what they say they are going to do. It's not what is contained in their policy documents. It's not what is contained in the Constitution. It's what they do that counts. So if your government ignores what is contained in statute books, then you have to relate to them as such. If you invoke the Constitution when in actual sense there is evidence that they have no regard for the Constitution, then you are the one who's misreading what they are doing. If you invoke, what the Constitution says vis-a-vis the appointment of this and that person, well, you're splitting hairs because there's evidence that they don't adhere to those provisions. And when they become an impediment, they sidestep them. That's what they do. So I'm not so sure Rigath's attorneys have a leg to stand on when they talk about, Kindiki is not a member of UDA, or he stated during the nomination following the disbandment of cabinet, that he wasn't a member of UDA. So how is a person who is not a member of UDA and the Constitution says blah, 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 the president and Peter, that's what the law says. But what these people do is often not in tandem with the law. And often they get away with it. 95 out of 100 times, they get away with it. On rare occasions, are they stopped in their tracks. So it's about taking a flight of fancy, if I may put it as such. And this is born out of this flawed notion that the law is the panacea to our problems. The law will not cure problems emanating from moral infractions. It's not going to cure those kind of things. The law is not going to cure an individual or a group of people who look at the law as a distraction, something that stands in the way of what they want to realize. And that's why I remember saying, once the impeachment is over, the deputy president nominee will be sworn in immediately. And then someone, no, but you see, he has to be cleared by the parliament. So, but that process can be hurried up. You can make parliament sit in one evening. You can summon them to Nairobi from wherever they are. And they're going to clear that nominee immediately. And that's exactly what they did. And another person said, no, but this matter will go to the courts. Okay. But the courts are not also disinterested in that matter. They can't sit on that matter for eternity. So as we sit now, chances are high that he could be sworn in tomorrow. or any time could be sworn in. And once he's sworn in, it is game over. Because there's no way, even if you go to the Court of Appeal or the Supreme Court, those two courts can reverse that decision. So IEBC, well, it's part of the state. It's not our friend. I think we should get that clear. It's not our friend. It's an extension of the state, IEBC. It's an extension of the state machinery. So why we think IEBC can operate differently, I don't get it. Because those are presidential appointees. And even the interviews, like Jebukati, for instance, when he ran, he applied for the position of IEBC chair. Well, he was picked in as much as he was not the best candidate. They picked him, didn't they? Yeah, he went out and assumed chair. And after every election, IEBC is disbanded. It's disbanded. What does it mean? It means it's set there expressly to serve a particular purpose, preside over this election. And then what happens? We'll disband you. And then there'll be you and cry. Kenyans will say, can you reconstitute? We'll reconstitute another one. They will also do the job. And when they are done, they're disbanded. That has been the way things have been operating since, when was it? Moi days to date. These people never stay around. After elections, they're discredited. And it's always the government that thinks that they're doing a good job. Because, they're presided over an election that the people who are controlling the government, have benefited. Of course, they're going to celebrate them. So those are moot issues about political party affiliation, IEBC. Is he a registered voter? Some even would want to go into those kind of, is he a registered voter? What does the law say? Has he resigned as Interior Cabinet Secretary? He's holding another job. He didn't resign before. No, all those amount to hair splitting, because we're not the US. We tend to think we're more like South Sudan. That's the reality. We're more like Burundi. We're more like Uganda. But we tend to think we're more like US. No, we are not. We tend to think we're more like UK. No, we are not. We're more like these other countries. The kind of things that happen in their backyards, they happen in our backyard. So that when somebody tells you, no, we are better than Uganda, at least in our case, the constitution works. At least in our case, the judiciary is independent. The same person, the following minute, is telling you, no, these courts are captured. Really? You are the one who said the other day, we are better than South Sudan. Now today you're bemoaning the fact that the courts are captured. Now it's that kind of thing. Sometimes we tend, as I put it, we take a flight of fancy. We are in Texas or we are in Washington, D.C. and stuff like that. So we're like, where Donald Trump can take leave of the campaign and go to the court, to respond to charges. From there, he goes back to his campaign trail. Or where a son of a sitting president can be taken to court and convicted. We are not that kind of a country, are we? We are not. We're not a country where a president will be summoned to court and appear. So that, Pipita, I put it to you, just visualize the impeachment of a president going forward. If this has proven to be this elaborate and protracted, can you contemplate the impeachment of a sitting president? First, where we'll even get a member of parliament that will do the Mutuse kind of thing to table the motion. Where will you get that person? Before when we move to getting the requisite numbers in both houses. Before when we talk about going to the High Court. And then, can you imagine how protracted it's likely to be? Just getting the person who's going to bail the cat. Where will you get that person? So the reality is we are more like Nigeria. We are more like South Sudan. We are more like Burundi. We are more like Central African Republic. We are not more like Texas or US or UK. And I think when you read things like that, then you see things in proper perspective. And you're likely to come up with realistic, resolutions to your contradictions, as opposed to sending people to the US to see how things are happening there. And then they bring those things back to, they're just having a nice time. They cannot replicate those things. But we can send them to Central African Republic. Go and see what's going on there and tell us whether we can borrow something from there. But they will be resistant and they'll think you are insulting them. So Kindiki will be sworn in, regardless of those issues they are raising, because in the broader scheme of things, those kind of things only apply to you and me, not to the people at that level. They don't. They are above it.
Asante sana for that, Western Diamond. How are you doing?
Pipi, sasa.
Poa sana.
I'm
mzee.
well.
Yeah.
I've listened to Western today, and it's quite different from the Western that I've been listening to. I think the last time I heard him king, today is quite sarcastic in terms of his view of things and what has been happening, which I agree with him. The only thing that I would ask myself is, if we are like South Sudan, then do we really need a constitution? Because for them, they are not operating with any. I'm sure they are operating by the will. In fact, they have like five vice presidents or something like that. And I even don't think they have a constitution. But be that as it may, I think the last have been actually very funny. And funny to me in a way that even away from what regarding Gachagua is going through, I've actually seen the courts walk away from the path they've been walking along. And I'll give examples. For a very long time, the courts are holding to the reasoning that public is something that is very important. They used a few months ago. However, the Supreme Court yesterday or the day before actually says that today public participation matters that are supposed to be done by Parliament is not important. They don't really care if Parliament will take into consideration whatever output they get from the public. So that departure from the stance where public participation was being looked at as an important legislative action tells me I think the courts have now joined the bandwagon with the judiciary, with the executive and the legislature. I also looked at the housing levy thing on Tuesday. I think they threw that away. I know there is something with the SHA tomorrow morning. I'm sure they will throw that away as well. Now, maybe this is now the problem that we had with, I think, what I can say before the 2010 constitution, where the public trust on institutions is actually being eroded. And I can say actually today, very many Kenyans do not believe that the current parliament is doing what it's supposed to do. So we don't have a lot of confidence with some of these institutions. As Western is saying that, yes, we are more like South Sudan and whatever. I think there's a time when we actually had more confidence with the institutions than they are today. In fact, there's a time when Parliament, I think the 2013 to 2017 one, they would actually even strike away a proposal by the executive. I think the second term for Uhuru, he lost a lot of battles in the judiciary. One of them is the BBI. He lost it almost completely. And at that point, obviously, I would still say the judiciary had the teeth to bite. It had the ability to bite. It was also trying to actually bite it. Today, the judiciary, the way it's going, I think we've now lost that completely. The IEBC, for example, might not even be set up. Now, what is the risk? For me, the risk is that we continuously lose confidence with some of these institutions an emotive issue like an election cannot then be presided over by these courts. And it can and Kenya is a very funny country. You know, the 2007 post-election violence happened because we never trusted what the IEBC, it was called ECK. Was it called the ECK? Western, anyone? I think it was called the ECK.
ECK.
So yes, the thing is, we actually went because we did not trust on the numbers they were telling us, they were giving us. Now, the risk with us today is, yes, the executive will have its way the full time. It will fire Rigathi Gachagua. That is okay. That is okay. He can go home. There is nothing, obviously. Some of us are getting out of him. There's nothing. It's not like he's a good Kenyan or there is any difference. Even Kindiki, even if he goes to that office, there is nothing he's going to do that's different. It's just another stooge that's being put there. But the thing is, what happens to public trust in these institutions? Because there are times when these institutions are supposed to stand for something. I remember the 2008 parliament, the one that Marende was the speaker. There is a time when political temperatures were really, really bad. And Marende was given, there was something he was to do. What was it? I don't remember the exact. Alonso or which issue? There was an issue though that Marende actually was, the country was waiting to see how Marende would react and what judgment the speaker would give that time. I don't remember the exact one, but there was something. But the fact that he gave a very solid judgment gave Parliament a lot of legitimacy. So when issues landed in Parliament, we knew that we had a speaker that could stand for something. Now, let's move forward to 2013. The Supreme Court had only been set. So it was the first time that we had a Supreme Court. They made judgments, and the IBC then, the ruling was, I don't know, but I think it was fair. Might not have agreed with it, but I think it was a bit fair. 2017, when Maraga was actually overturning an election, Kenyans had already had a lot of confidence with the courts. So even when he overturned the election, Kenyans actually agreed with him. No one went to the street, nothing. We went to a second election, although it was shambolic, we went back to it and we agreed. Now, what is my question? My question is, if the people start feeling like the judiciary is captured, quote in quote, then assuming we get into 2017, and obviously IBC as Western has said very clearly, these are presidential appointees. So if they mess up with an election and it becomes a very tight election, I don't know who will vie. Obviously, Rigathi is out of the question. So I don't know who will vie. Maybe Morara. Let's use that as an example. If it becomes a very tight election and we do not trust IBC, and we also do not trust, we are not a very strong democracy to actually that it might not turn upside down. We fought in 1991, fought again in 2007. I don't know, maybe another 20 years, then it might also go back banning each other. I don't know. I really hope that these institutions will at least start standing for something, but I think the judiciary now is fully gone. The executive is the wrong one, that we expected both parliament and the judiciary to keep checking. But everybody would actually say we mess up ourselves by voting the wrong people to parliament. Let me tell you, when it gets to voting, even if you vote the right guy, immediately these guys are paid. How much are MPs being paid? We hear 10,000, 15,000. They just given some, the Kericho MCAs, for example, I heard they were being given, I think, 18K each or 19,000 each to vote either to impeach the governor or not. So a politician, I think the cost of actually having all of them in your side might cost you less than 2 million shillings. So the job of actually the public electing the right person, that doesn't exist, Bana. We are not in that class. We are not in that class that you think you will elect an MP because he's a right thinking man, that he gets to parliament and start thinking like himself. They don't. When they go to parliament, either it's your MP, not your MP, immediately they are in parliament, they leave those shoes in the door. We've seen professors of law and any other professor, they are voting the same way as our friend Naite, some of our MPs that we do not think are very good credentials academically. Now, before I finish, because I don't want to talk forever, what am I learned, especially on this process? Not even not even the Gachagua one. I'm not into it so much. Whichever way it goes, it will go one way or another. Kindiki will be given the mantle, he will be sworn in, we'll have a holiday, I don't know what, whatever, and we move on. As a country, we'll move on somewhere. But some of these decisions that the courts are giving, I ask myself, I'm not a lawyer, I'm also not in the legal, but an example, they're saying that immediately you get impeached, you cease to be either a governor, a senator, or whatever. But again, the same day, the same courts have left Kawira Mongasa in the office. She's still the governor. So I ask myself, so how do we apply these laws? Because we applied it today. We did that to Sonko as well. When Wambora was surviving every other impeachment, I think he survived almost 9. Waititu went through one of them and they blew him away. So we really decided to, I'm sure most of us have forgotten Waititu was governor at some point. So we had to read the law when it's favoring us, when it's not favoring us. Yeah, but I hope these institutions will start getting a bit of confidence. We depend on these institutions in times when things are very tight. If you are not a young boy in 2007 or a young man then, I'm sure you don't have country to go there. I am not saying we're going to fight. Please don't get me wrong. The confidence of these institutions is not very high, then it can easily topple. That's it for me, Pipita.
Thank you so much, Diamond, also for inspiring us and reminding us the importance of 2020, 2017, 2007, yani. 2007 was quite a year, bana. Wow. Some of us are kids, but I would hate to go back there again. Really. And people will tell you their stories.
Western,
yeah.
Did I lose you?
Diamond? You are trying to say something, Diamond? Ala, Diamond, tukawa tunakupoteza. Hebu unmute. You are trying to say something, also something. Allah. So yeah, as I was saying, 2007 was quite a time. And, the country was boiled like this with our politicians. And I've seen many Kenyans have said they want to kick out, they're praying Baba doesn't make it to the AU. What implication that brings to the political landscape, we are yet to know. We are in a catch-22 on that as well. So there is so many moving parts as well in our country. And that is why speaking of peace is very important as well when you're talking to each other. And of course, reminding each other that now is not the time to be in your tribal cocoon. Yeah, maybe it's something I should point out. DK Diamonds, I don't know if you can rejoin the microphone, but I would like to remind you that, ladies and gentlemen, Home Run is PPE supported by the listener. Pale hivi kwenye tip cha leo ni 00. Ukweli mmesema landlord leo akuje nianze kumwambia vile, so naweza kumwambia gani? Excuse zimekosa. Ingeni pale hivi kwa tip cha 200 100 pale hivi tu support show yetu, tuweze kumanage maintain space ya show bwana. Ni hivyo tu ndo tunafanya, kwa sababu sasa tutafanyaje? Hakuna makazi nchi yetu. Sasa kama mimi nimekaa hivi nikajiuliza, I have a friend who has not been employed since June. Who is DK? Are you back, Diamonds?
Yes, I don't know. I lost you at what point, or you lost me at what point?
You were trying to ask a question and then you just went mute.
I can't remember.
You're trying to ask questions.
I can't remember.
But... I think it was a rebuttal.
Okay, I can't remember, but no, I'm just saying. I think as I concluded, I'm not very sure if you had me talking about the Kawira Mwangaza case, where the courts are now saying yes, Kawira, yes, is still governor, and the same case cannot be applied to Rigathi. I really don't get it when the courts are speaking from both sides of their mouths. Yes, I'm not a legal profession to sit down and decide, but the thing is, as a layman as I am, I would actually expect some form of uniformity. But let's leave that one for Kawira Mwangaza. I know that's a very weighty matter. But let's talk about, say, public participation, for example. While the courts at some point say public participation is important, and when legislation is being done, public participation inputs must be put into consideration. But again, same courts are saying, look, public participation is a cosmetic matter, and it doesn't matter. I don't have seen Western raising his hand, but for me, really, it's institutions. If these institutions do not build public trust, then it gets to a point when the public are actually waiting for those institutions to make a point, and we can use, what was the name of the ECK chair that time? I remember we went into war. Immediately the guy, immediately he read out the numbers. We were off into war. So the point is, there's a time when these institutions are supposed to have a lot of public trust. That is why when Maraga turned upside down an election, the country was quiet. But hey,
Western.
Yes, Pepita. I need to tell Diamond that each case ought to be looked at on its merits. That it will be such a clumsy jurist who just, when a case is brought before them, they simply cite a precedent and say, look, a case of this nature, found itself in the Supreme Court of India or the Court of Appeal of South Africa, and this is how they ruled, and therefore it applies here. It doesn't work like that. And that's why people are usually interested in the philosophical reasoning as to why a judge arrived at a particular decision. How did you arrive at it? And therefore, the deliberations of a particular case in India cannot be exactly the same as deliberations over a case that looks similar to that one in Kenya or South Africa. So precedents matter, but judges are guided by precedents. They can actually deviate from precedents. It's not a cookie cutter approach. And therefore, those who are thinking that because the Meru governor went to court and was reinstated, the same would apply in the case of Rigathi. No, it doesn't work like that. And it shouldn't work like that, ideally, because it will make the work of judges so easy. You don't have to think. You just replicate things, which crudely put your copying and pasting. You are not appointed a judge to do that. And if you do that, you also don't enhance, what they call jurisprudence, that philosophy of law, because you're not thinking. You are not deliberating on those issues based on your own philosophy, how you understand the law. So you're simply regurgitating stuff. You cannot afford to do that. And you don't even help students who are studying law. And therefore, if there are countries you see, we're invoking and quoting cases from, it means judges really deviate from what is there. And they think, as it were, not just outside of the box, without the box. Diamond, I don't know whether Diamond talked about 2013 elections, Pepita. 2013 elections, that presidential petition was supposed to have given the Supreme Court a lot of traction. It did not. In my understanding, in my reading, it did not. One, for those who remember, there was a case about the date of elections. Those elections were actually meant to be held in 2012. For those who remember, they were meant to be held in 2012. But they were pushed back to 2013, arbitrarily, by Mwai Kibaki. And the IEBC agreed and everybody else agreed. Of course, at that time, they were buying time. It was external factors, the ICC cases. How do you, outmaneuver these individuals? And then another matter arose about the eligibility of the Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto to run for president or public office for that matter. That matter became a political hot potato. No one wanted to handle it. It was like a tennis ball, kicking there, kicking here. IEBC seized with the matter. When it went to the court, the IEBC seized with the matter. Until when they were cleared, the courts just said, no, the IEBC has already cleared them. So that matter has been overtaken by events. But Willie Mutunga was supposed to have taken on board that issue to the Supreme Court, and they should have pronounced themselves on that matter. And so, having shied away from pronouncing themselves on that matter, it has had a lasting impact on Chapter 6 of the Constitution, on leadership and integrity. It has. It has. We've paid the price since then to date. The other thing was the petition. That election, those who keenly observed it will tell you that there was no outright winner on the first round. There was no outright winner. So at the very minimum, that election was supposed to have gone for a runoff. But of course, it couldn't because the stakes were high. The stakes were high. And again, Pepita, I told people back then that Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto cannot afford to lose this election because they needed the might of the state to make a formidable fight back against the ICC. Without the might of the state, they were tossed. They were tossed. Because then the ICC had to approach them, give us evidence, give us, the inventory of your wealth. Well, you're a president, you're a deputy president. Can you do that? But if you're not there, somebody else who is there is Raila Odinga will give out your inventory. So when the ICC asked for that kind of information, they didn't get. How much land does he have? They didn't get that information. So it was a false start. As far as the 2010 constitutional dispensation was concerned, it was a false start. The other thing was technicality. when Raila Odinga submitted this 900-page evidence, I mean, the Supreme Court just dismissed it. Say, no, you filed it late. No, but when you are seeking justice, the question of lateness it cannot take precedence over justice. And to really ascertain the veracity of the elections, who exactly won the elections. No, Mutunga and those other churches say, no, your evidence cannot be admitted because it's time barred. Well, that was a technicality. It is. The kind of things that used to happen under the 1963 Constitution that ceased to operate upon the promulgation of this Constitution. Because at that time, judges will tell you if you file a presidential petition, and Moi Kibaki and I think Ken Matiba suffered that fate. So the judges just tell you, look, your petition falls because you didn't serve the president, Moi, in person. You, Peter, you can really pass through a security detail and serve a president, a petition. Can you do that? But that's what they said. In Ken Matiba's case, at some point they said, now look here, you did not sign these papers yourself. It's your wife who signed these papers, and therefore they are not admissible. Those are technicalities that were there. And they continued under this new dispensation at the very, very beginning. But Peter, of interest, which some people don't know, at that time there was a small matter. To some, it's not a small matter, it's a big matter. When Willie Mutunga had been sworn in as the founding Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, among the people he visited was Daniel Moi. And some of the individuals who had been in the trenches and had suffered, been detained, they took great exception to that. Why would you go and see that individual who had no regard for the rule of law, for the Constitution, who used to detain people, without trial and all sorts of human rights violations? Well, his answer was mired in apathy. And as a Chief Justice, he had the right to meet anybody and everybody, any citizen of Kenya, and that they had got meat or stuff like that. Well, Peter, it matters. Optics do matter. They do matter. Who you meet when you're a public figure, it matters. It does. Nothing. It's because you don't just wake up and meet somebody. But then what people don't understand, it takes us back to this issue I keep on saying about power. As the president of the Supreme Court, Willie Mutunga now had joined power. Moi was the embodiment of power. He's a former president, now retired president. He's the embodiment of power. Now they could meet and talk about power issues. But when he was on the other side, fighting against the people on this other side, he was an outsider. Then he was an insider. So it tells you when people tell you power does corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So for me, I think Maraga injected some lease of life in this Constitution and in the Supreme Court. Before it happened, there was a lot about, building courts and whatever, but you can build courts. But buildings don't amount to justice. They don't amount to justice. You can digitize court proceedings, but that in and of itself does not amount to justice.
1 minute wasted.
So, and that's why when Maraga retired, the powers that be made it a point that they do not get another jurist who is likely to give them problems, who could think independently. It informed their selection of his successor.
They couldn't go for Makau Mutua. I remember, and also Miguna. Imagine Miguna as your Chief Justice, ladies and gentlemen. Yani, I want the evidence. Hata si lawyer nakupeleka ni judge. Where is the evidence? I said cap 127. We really need an Miguna Chief Justice. When one day when people actually desire change and wake up in the morning and do the necessary for the right person, I hope it's soon. We need chief justices who do not have fear, like the one you're talking about, Maraga. Yeah, we need chief justice of that caliber. Victor, how are you doing? Thank you so much, Western Shilao, for that submission and also that response. Nikaba Diki ametoroka. Victor, how are you doing?
Niko poa PP. How are you doing? How is mom doing?
Ako salama, hata mimi niko better.
I mean, naona mmeamua kufanyia Gachagua mambo. Sasa si ndio broken heart syndrome itashika kabisa.
Unajua Dr. Kikojo pia ako na familia, ndugu yangu. Sijui kama unajua hivyo.
Anyway, this is by tech. You cannot fight the state and win. Yeah, you can't. Whatever. Even if the state decided to take it slowly, wachukue hizo 74 days, Gachagua would still have gone out. Because once the state has decided that they don't want you, they don't want you. Yeah. Now, I think Gachagua's stubbornness has been his own downfall. Na hii ikue a lesson to everybody, and I'm going to repeat it here. James Agri Orengo has always said that revolutions eat their own children. Yeah, whenever you are supporting whatever candidate, whatever party, whatever government, whatever strong opinion you have, always never allow yourself to border on psychophancy and assume that you are the most powerful. Well, Gachagua behaved like as if he was president of this nation. Sometimes when he was speaking, you would ask yourself, "Who jama shida yake ni nini?" And now he has the very people who are hanging out with him, the very people who are cheering him on, are the same people in Mwangusha. I can count many rallies where Rigathi Gachagua was probably with Ndidi Nyoro and Kimani Ichung'wah and even the lawyers, even hawa kina Ojienda venye walitoroka wakaenda wakaanza we are working with the president because we are looking for development. See, when ODM wanted to suspend these people, see, Gachagua was one of the people. Ikiwa mtu anataka kufanya kazi na rais, mbona mkataze? Kwa sababu amekuja kutafuta maendeleo. That Ojienda is the same person kwa koti leo arguing for his crucifixion. Yeah, it should be a lesson to all of us, especially young people. Na hii hapa ndo sasa tunasema democracy imechacha. Unaona vile shift inaingia, NSSF inataka kuongezwa, housing levy ndio hiyo. Sasa you have no option but to participate in governance. Hakuna option. Unajua ile option ya kusemanga mimi sipigangi kura. Mimi hata siasa hatuangaliangi. Now you have no option. Now you have to participate in governance. Now you have to participate in elections. Now you have to make sure that you do your part as a citizen. Hiyo ndio sasa inaitwa kuwa citizen. Hiyo passport unalia huo upati ukitafuta ama ID. Once you have that ID and passport, it's not just a document inakaa kwa wallet. That document should give you an authority to interrogate matters of governance, matters of the state with your voice. And if your voice and other people's voices come collectively, tuko ndani. Tuacheni hii mambo ya kulialia sijui ati tuanze kuangalia. I mean, history is good. Whatever Mutunga did, whatever Kibaki did, whatever sijui Baba did, nini. But sasa hizi tuko na opportunity. Tumepevuka, tumeona vile state inacheza. Tujipangeni sasa. 2027 iko hapa around the corner. Are we still going to fall for the same shenanigans? Are we still going to listen to the same things? I mean, I don't know if any of you are following the Senate Public Accounts Committee, the way they are grilling governors. Na uone vile kuna mashetani in these counties, all because people are not doing what they're supposed to be doing. Yeah, unasikia kama Machakos County, about 80% of their revenue collection inaenda in paying legal fees. Unashanga what kind of legal fees are those? And that is outside the pending bills zenye hawajalipa in 10 years since Alfred Mutua became governor. So this is our time. Hakuna kutoroka kwa sababu sisi wote tutaenda Qatar. Sisi wote tutaenda Jordan. Sisi wote tutaenda Oman. Sisi wote, kuna watu wameenda Germany kweli venye nilisikia Ruto ametoka huko. Sijasikia, I've not heard of any flight going to Germany or anything. Sisi wote hatuwezi enda nje. Now even as some of us want to leave, there are some of us who are coming back to the country. So